Hey Suburban Psychics, welcome back. This week's question is from Chris. And Chris says, and this made me laugh, why, when you're in a rush to get somewhere or go somewhere, everything happens to delay you? Something that happened this weekend. And I laugh because, like, who hasn't had a day like that? Really? Who hasn't? We can go into this long discussion about resonance and you're attracting the very thing that you are, blah, 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 blah. But let's just get right beneath it and see what the Oracle has for Chris, because it clearly, some days we have days like that and we just sail through them regardless. But she wanted to ask the question. And I think when you spontaneously do ask a question like that, there's an answer waiting to be had, hiding beneath it. So let's see what that is for Chris. At first I'm just glancing here on the table where I've got the oracle that I've made on Pinterest and I'm adding to from time to time called This is an Oracle, and it's one of my Pinterest boards. I've got crystals, beautiful tray, over 70 crystals, and books on the human body, and books by Annette Nerntal, Louise Hay, Mona Lisa Schulz, so all of those great body systems. And I am being drawn to the Intuitive Advisor by Mona Lisa, so we'll see what that has to offer. Okay, nothing else on the table. We'll see what else we can pluck out of here. Okay. This is actually a fiction book, Love Me, by Garrison Keillor, and just looking for a third one. Okay. Serpent of Light by Drunvalo. That'll be interesting. Okay, so let's start with the Intuitive Advisor. This is by Dr. Mona Lisa Schulz, and she does fantastic work on the chakras and the links between those energy centers and dis-ease in the body. And she's got a fantastic model that I've studied and done her 3-month course on regarding each chakra and which organs and systems within the body it relates to. So there's a fantastic body of work. And the subtitle here is A Psychic Doctor Teaches You How to Solve Your Most Pressing Health Problems. And I'd love to see what comes out of this, because in asking this question, it had nothing to do with health. So I'm going to just be intuitively drawn to a page. I've gone to page 101, and I've gone straight to the middle. And it says, what I've learned from people like Helen is that bankrupt and bereft types blame their past problems on the inept performance of those around them. They assume more and more control and avoid working with others to prevent any further errors by people. I kind of can see where this is going, can't you, Chris? They also apply the same faulty response to relationships. Rather than trying to learn the intricate skills behind the mechanics of a cooperative, intimate relationship, they seize control there too. They either become very vocal and domineering in an attempt to preempt problems, assuring that nothing that has gone wrong before will repeat itself, or they choose to be totally submissive, shutting up and saying nothing to avoid confrontations like they've had in the past. Ironically, after each loss, they try harder and harder to seize even more control, rather than adopting a more skillful, effective approach that could actually help them, such as learning a more cooperative stance. I love that, because when your day spirals out of control, when, as you said, you're in a rush to get somewhere or go somewhere, and your words were, everything happens to delay you. Everything happens to delay you. And so it's that awful sense of life spinning out of control, things spinning out of control. You probably had a plan for the day. Okay, we need to be out of the house at this time and over at this location by this time and get that done, and then an hour later go on to the next thing. And when all of that, you know, well-laid plan goes to hell, it can be really hard to like pull things back on track, especially if you do have a number of things you want to achieve on your precious weekends or on a precious day. So I love this oracle because it's pointing out very clearly that you can't just try to assume more and more control as things aren't going the way you want them to. You've actually got to let go and find more cooperative ways of interacting with what's happening. You've got to be able to, excuse me, think on your feet and be responsive rather than reactive. And that can be a really hard thing to do in the moment when you're being thrown off track and your equilibrium has been thrown out. And it can be really difficult to bring yourself back to the center and just have a breath and connect with what's going on and say, okay, well, if we can't do this, we'll do that. It's a really great skill to develop, to be able to think on your feet like that and just respond and be cooperative and go with the flow of what's happening, even though it's like just chewed up and spat out all the plans you had for the day. So I think that's a great start. That's a really good one. Our next one is called Love Me by Garrison Keillor. And it's a fiction novel about a character called Larry Weiler. So, funny enough, I haven't read this yet. I saw it and I thought, oh, that looks interesting, grabbed it, put it on the shelf, and I haven't even read it. I haven't opened the book. So let's see what it's got for Chris, because so far it hasn't given me anything because I haven't read it. Okay, so Love Me, page, 101 again. That's a bit spooky. Okay. It says, I couldn't help but remember the day, I'm just sort of gone a few paragraphs down because that's where my eye was drawn. I couldn't help but remember the day I sat down on the C train opposite a young black woman reading a book that, sacre bleu, it was my very own novel, Spacious Skies. Okay, so the main character in the book looks like he was an author. She was reading my words, exclamation mark. I wanted to tap her on her little black knee and say, hey, it's me, look at the photograph on the back, see, I'm him, the guy who wrote that. And then I noticed that she wasn't smiling. A slim, well-dressed black lady, 29, heading downtown to her job at a brokerage firm, scowling and flipping pages, looking for something of redeeming value, and she shook her head and closed the book and put it down on the seat beside her. Oh, my dear African-American lady of 29, let me show you a passage or two that are sure to bring a smile to your lips. And the train pulled into the 34th Street station, and she got off and left my book behind. Ooh. I almost broke down and cried. I felt devastated for days. Oh. Well, that passage alone's interesting, isn't it? Imagine having that experience as an author, to see someone pick your book up and kind of scowl at it and then just leave it on the train and walk away. And it's that incredible sense of, again, lack of control, rejection. He couldn't speak to her. Things certainly didn't go the way he wanted them to. And he felt devastated for days. Chris, I think that's kind of the point here for you, is that we can let things get under our skin, or we can brush them off. He didn't have to have that reaction. He could have simply thought, oh well, what I wrote isn't for everyone, but I believe in myself and I believe in what I wrote, so if it's not for her, it's not for her. But he didn't. It got to him and he felt devastated for days. And I feel like that's kind of the key message for you here is we can be like that, where something goes wrong, and instead of bouncing back from it or letting it bounce off us, it gets us down. And then things build, boom, 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 on top, because we can't shift gears. I have that same problem sometimes myself, especially if somebody hurts my feelings and then they try to just kind of act like nothing's happened. I find it really hard to switch gears from being hurt to, oh, we're fine and everything's great and nothing actually happened. I really struggle with that. And I think from this message coming out, perhaps you do a little bit too. So maybe you said it was, everything happens to delay you. It kind of sounds like more than one thing happened that day, last weekend, when this question popped into your head after the day. And I really do believe that, certainly from a resonance point of view, things build. Things build. If you get that, first sense of being put out, being put off, you've lost your equilibrium, and you can't switch gears and regain it, then yeah, in that sense of like attracts like, you pluck a guitar string on this side of the room and the guitar on that side of the room, it's same string starts resonating. You do set up a resonance for yourself when you can't shift things, and then they start stacking on each other and accumulating. And I think you had a little bit of that going on, it sounds like, the other weekend. So when you find yourself in a situation like that, you've really got to shake it off. I'm not, superstitious and saying, oh my gosh, if you don't pull your shit together, the rest of the day is going to go to hell necessarily. But it's good to just catch yourself in the moment if you can and shake it off. Do whatever you can, physically. Shake it off if you have to. Quickly listen to one of your favorite upbeat songs. Find a way to shift your energy. And maybe don't even try to go for the big shift, but a little shift. The work of Abraham Hicks, I've got a few books here behind me, is fantastic. And they very much endorse, okay, you're not going to get from clinically depressed to joy in one jump. But you could get from clinically depressed up here, one little step, maybe into a little bit of righteous indignation or anger or something, which is actually more positive, because you direct it outwards instead of inwards. Step by step by step by step, creep your vibration, your mood back up again. And it can be really hard to do when you've really wanted to achieve something and everything's coming in to delay you and stop you. And the last one, and this will be interesting, is Serpent of Light, Beyond 2012. And it's called The Movement of the Earth's Kundalini and the Rise of the Female Light, 1949 to 2013. And it's by Drunvalo, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his surname because I know I'm going to get it wrong and embarrass myself. I heard Drunvalo on one of the telesummits that there's so many great ones around. Healing with the Masters, John Berger's Beyond the Ordinary. They're probably my two favourites. And I would have heard Drunvalo then on Healing with the Masters. And I just liked what he had to say at the time, and I decided I wanted to go and read his books. So I picked up this book, and it's a great read. It's a fascinating read, and it's an entertaining story at the same time. But I don't know how it relates at all in any way to Chris's question, so let's find out. So we'll see which page we're drawn to. 173. I thought it was going to be 101 again. How great would that have been? Anyway. Okay. Oh, this is cool. It's about when he was amongst the Mayan ruins. And I'm actually going there in April. I'm so excited about it. And this passage is about that. So page 173 in Drunvalo's book. And he starts off saying, they would live within the crystal skull, holding and preserving the knowledge, memories and wisdom of the ancient Mayans, and so that in this time, in the end of time, it would be remembered. Their purpose was being fulfilled now at this moment. The skulls were all slowly coming together all over Mayaland because that was their purpose from the beginning. There are 13 skulls in all, and the near future of the ceremony of the 13 Mayan skulls will become reality, and the Mayan prophecy will be complete, meaning the ancient transmission will have entered into the modern Mayan spirit. As this realization flooded into me, I saw an old grandmother sitting quietly in the background inside the crystal skull. I knew that she was the one who had arranged this eternal marriage with the two lovers. I knew that she had planned everything that this crystal skull was to do for her people, that it was the ancient grandmothers who had devised this method of transmitting information across the millennia and they were still guarding the skulls. The knowledge, memories, and wisdom that the Mayan lovers held was from this period of time when the Mayan culture was first blossoming. Oh, that's lovely. So in this part of the story, he's on quite a long quest, and he's locating people that have these crystal skulls, because there is a ceremony where all the skulls have to be reassembled in a group of 13 to fulfill the Mayan prophecy. And the prophecy was all around the transmission of energy from the past into the future. And that's really interesting to me, because it seems like they knew there wasn't going to be a direct line. So normally in those cultures, this kind of knowledge and wisdom is passed down generation to generation. It seems like they knew there was going to be a gap, that something was going to go wrong, and that the knowledge had to be contained in another way so that it could then come together later. I'm really trying to think how this would relate. Rushing, getting somewhere to go, everything happens to delay you. I guess I'm a little bit stuck with this one. Nothing's jumping straight out to me as to why that information relates to Chris's question. And this happens sometimes when you're dealing with oracles and when you're asking for answers on behalf of other people. This could mean something incredibly specific. It could be like a light bulb moment for Chris going on over her head, whereas for me, it's veiled, it's obscure. And sometimes the privacy comes into play as well, where I can deliver the answer, but it's not my business to necessarily know the full meaning of it. And therefore, Chris's privacy is maintained to a degree. So I'm going to just simply share it. I'm going to say I can't really see how it relates to the question, but I don't need to, because this isn't for me. I'm not doing this for me and asking for me. If I was, I'd probably dig a little deeper, or give it some thought and sit on it for a day or two, and then suddenly, like a snap, things would come to me. So I'm going to leave it sit for now. If anything comes to me over the next day or two, or if Chris gives me any feedback about this, I'll put it in the blog post, because I'd like to see or know where this was going, because I absolutely trust the information that comes through, even if it doesn't seem to make sense to me and to my conscious mind at the time. It has to make sense because I've asked for an answer, and it could be that I'm just, not in the right place to receive it. So, ending on a mystery note today. That's the first one for us. I hope you've enjoyed the answers. Please think about subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss any other questions and answers. Treat it as an intuitive tool of your own. You don't have to watch it every week, but every now and then, just pop over. Watch something that you're drawn to and see what comes out for you. And remember that you're connected, and remember to ask the right kind of questions. Think about how you're formatting the questions, because the questions absolutely have the power to move you forward or keep you stuck. So, my little suburban psychics, what's your question?